Welcome back. You are watching The Core, and we are discussing the herder-farmer conflicts in Nigeria. Now, you can join the conversation on our social media handles, Twitter @ChannelsTV or @Adria using the hashtag NGTheCore. We will do our best to take some of the comments of the people at home and make them part of this conversation. Now, before the breaks, you'd heard Ms. Johnson saying that she wasn't totally satisfied with the answer you were given. I want to give you a quick chance to respond, and then actually I'm going to start engaging the audience as well.
Yes, thank you, madam. What she was referring to was the incident that happened immediately after the burial of those killed during the mayhem. Of course, there was spontaneous reaction by the people, and they now started attacking here and there. We responded. We should understand the fact that when incidents like that happen, it's not something you just stop immediately. We were careful. We never used firearms, okay? But what we did was to effect arrest. We arrested 106, it's on record. And the 106 were charged to court. They have been prosecuted. And of course, that was what brought a normalcy to Makurdi.
Okay, so we sort of touched a little bit on some of the issues and the problems of this conflict. I'd like to start by bringing in the audience. And please, if I call you, could you say who you are before you make your comments? Maybe the gentleman in black, right in the middle there. Please tell us who you are, and then tell us what your thoughts are regarding the reasons for this conflict.
Excuse me. Thank you. My name is Chris Ngodo. I've listened to what everyone has said. It seems to me that there are secondary causes and primary causes. So in the long term, there are structural things like climate change, like unplanned urbanization, like overpopulation, and all of that. But in the immediate, I think we're also dealing with a culture of impunity that arises from the fact that the state seems to have lost the will and has certainly lost the capacity to police the country. It's a big country. We have close to 200 million people. We have a police force that is less than 500,000. It's almost unfair to expect that force to be able to cover the length and breadth of this country. It's simply not possible. I think we should modulate our expectations in terms of what our security services, particularly the police, which is the most neglected in the entire national security value chain. It's important that we modulate our expectations of what they can do, or what we expect that they are capable of. So I think we are dealing now with a culture of impunity, and quite frankly, the state has also lost its monopoly of violence. The numbers that we are seeing, these are not criminal acts. These are small and medium scale intensity conflicts. That's what you're seeing. This is almost like a prelude to civil war.
Explain that, please.
I mean that if you have armed groups using assault weapons that storm communities, that displace thousands, that kill in the scores and in the hundreds, then that is not regular crime. It's not a burglary. This is guerrilla conflict. This is armed non-state actors engaging in very, very serious attacks against the state, against the way of lives of people. We are talking of whole communities being displaced. So I think that hence, I think that the approach that the state appears to have taken is that of militarization, of simply militarizing law enforcement and essentially using the police almost as an afterthought, really.
Okay. Now, let me stop you there, because I'd like to at this point, bring up the issue of, so when we talk about this conflict, and whether there is the Benue one, or whether the Mambila, or whether the ones in Kaduna, you have a series of conspiracy theories that is very difficult to kind of decide whether they're actually accurate or not, because of the nature of this country, people testing information, checking it out. So a few of them, for example, Benue or Fulanis are taking over, and they want to take over our land, they want to run us over. At the same time, no, actually, the government of Benue is doing ethnic cleansing because it has chased out all the Fulanis out of Benue State. Then you have people who talk about ISIS and ISWAP and the fact that there's a Boko Haram, remnants chased out of Sambisa who are now heavily armed and they're going out. And then we're also not addressing fully the historical, ethnic, and religious tensions that have always existed. In your view, Doctor, and again I come to you because I know you've done extensive work, research and academic study on this, are all of this correct? And, or are they all wrong and is something else entirely going on?
I think substantially most of the opinions being expressed are out of context. They are not correct. They are manipulated by two sections, an elite and a political class that is narrow-minded, that try to promote very naive interests, and then a media that is not adequately informed and which is not interested in digging into the details of most of these issues. I think these are the major drivers. If you take, for example, all of this, if pastoralists, for example, not Fulani, if you take Fulani, they are entirely different. Throughout West Africa, pastoralism has been historically in West Africa for almost 700 or 800 years ago. Can you tell me from Mauritania up to the Central African Republic, into Zaire, into Sudan, can you tell me the pastoral land today that has been annexed by Fulani pastoralists? Can you tell me a territory that the Fulani have annexed either 200 or 300 years ago, and then they make it an exclusive grazing area and they do not allow any other person to live there? It doesn't exist throughout West Africa. So it's a historical fact that the Fulani are opportunistic users of resources, opportunistic users of land. That is what scholars, not only Nigerians, internationally have described the pastoralists. Okay, so they are not after land.
Okay, but
annexation.
And yet,
yes.
And yet, when we went to Benue, for example, we found at least one person who said to us, we were attacked, and the gentleman that led the attack was a Fulani man that used to live in this community and that we used to know. So are you totally dismissing the idea that Fulani people are attacking other communities, or what are you saying? I want clarity on this.
You see, I think the context in which we are talking is different. One is about land annexation. That was what I was talking about. So it's not the motive of pastoralists anywhere throughout history to annex land and hold it to themselves. It is clear on history. That is one. Number two, if you come back to these conflicts, let's take the very clear, simple example of what happened in Plateau. From 2001, when the Just Plateau crisis erupted, up to 2015, into 2016, when the underlying factors were addressed. Where are the violence? It has scaled down. So there are drivers. What is wrong is that both number one, the media does not interrogate. If you look at your reports for Benue, I didn't see any interview for pastoralists. So it's already biased. You could have searched for those Fulani that were part and parcel of those conflicts. That is number one. Number two, the same thing when you were on the Mambila. I could see footage of the Fulani talking. I did not see the footages of those people who they allege to have committed this thing against them, so that we can understand. And then finally, please, just to make this point very clear, wherever you see armed conflicts between two groups, the Fulani and the Tiv in Benue are fighting and they are killing each other. The difference is that the information of the people, the Fulani people that are killed is never released, the truth is never told, just like we have seen the most recent, issue I have to bring in somebody. All the stories have been tilted towards